get at the 41. What a hit! Ball's free, on the ground. South Carolina deserves to have it.
Seth Rollins just curb stomped Randy Orton.
And with that curb stomp, the future is now.
All right, guys, welcome back to the 5-Star Podcast. I've had a few weeks hiatus, got a new baby at the house. Been really busy with that, but glad to be here with my man Kyle Maggard, who's gonna talk to us a little bit about, guess what, wrestling, because that's what we talk about here on the 5-Star Podcast. I know you got a show tomorrow night.
Yes, we're at the National Guard Armory in Hazard tomorrow night. Doors open at 6:30, bell time 7:30.
Yeah, I go to all these wrestling gigs all the time. They're all fun. I enjoy it. What does it really take to get one of these going?
From what I understand, there's so much that goes into it. Far as first, you got to find a venue. You got your venue. Then you got to figure, is it large enough to hold the crowd? We normally have a pretty good sized crowd up there. Everybody likes to get out and see the guys in action. Then from there, you got to find your talent for the show. You book your wrestlers to be on the show, and after that, promotion. You got to get it out there. All forms of medium now. You got with the internet in this day and age. You've got Twitter and Snapchat, Facebook. Everybody loves. Remember the days of Yahoo Messenger, but way before Facebook.
MySpace.
ICQ.
MySpace. Oh yeah.
It predates all of that.
For a while, I used to remember my ICQ number, that you log in with, but I've completely forgotten.
A friend of mine's got that ringtone on his phone when you get a message. But you've got that medium that you need to use. Obviously, TV, podcasts like we're doing right now, radio. I was on the Farron and Scott show this morning on SGS Channel 101. Mm-hmm. And yesterday, me and the driller Eddie Browning were on the Scott and Chas show, also on SGS 101.1. So you got that. Then there's the ever popular old school style of just hanging up posters, going to all these different little mom and pop stores that we may have left there. In this town, you go to Walmart, hit the flyers on the cars, just postering in a. You find your town, set your radius, and you poster within that radius every place you can, get your name out there. I know one of the promotions for this show is that if you're a student in grades preschool through 8th grade, you get in free with a paying adult. So those tickets were dropped off at the schools in Perry County over the course of Monday through today. So, and if they don't have their ticket, there'll be tickets there if they come in and say, hey, I don't heard about it. Maybe my principal didn't give it to me. Oh well, they'll have tickets there at the gate for them to use that promotion. Because this day and age, especially around here with the coal drying up jobs, everybody losing jobs and such, it's hard if you've got a big family to go out to events. So I know the promotion wants to do everything they can to help those people out.
Oh, no doubt about it. Talk about this show specifically. Who are the wrestlers at this show?
The main event is the driller Eddie Browning. He'll be wrestling the Mid-Southern champion, Picture Perfect Jordan Cage. Jordan Cage is out of Evansville, Indiana, I think. Last month when we were in the Armory, the stipulation on the match was if Eddie could beat Jordan in a non-title match, then this month he would get that, and he did. So then we got the rematch of between Larry D and John Noble, Buckhorn's coach, John Noble. Legendary Larry D, as he likes to call himself.
Legendary.
We were in Buckhorn September 3rd of last month, and I think John was wrestling for that same Mid-Southern Championship, and Larry D come out and gorilla pressed him. So they had a match last month, ended with John Noble being disqualified. Apparently John had John went to hit Larry. Larry moved. John hit the referee. They wrestled for a little while the referee was down. John ended up getting the pin on him. Second ref come out, counted to 1, 2, 3. First ref got up, disqualified him.
The dusty finish.
The dusty finish.
Dusty finish.
The dusty finish.
So it sounds like there's a lot. This is a lot of revenge. A lot of.
It's a revenge show.
A lot of revenge show.
I'm wrestling a guy named Sexy Stan Sierra.
Oh, big guy.
Big guy. He's a little bit bigger than me.
And you're not a small guy either. So
I'd like not to think that I am.
Okay. I am too. It's an optical illusion with the camera right now.
Sexy Stan Sierra. Now, I polled about 100 women before the show. I asked them how sexy they thought Stan was. About as sexy as Betty White. So
it's not very sexy.
So
Not very sexy.
Not very sexy at all.
So I know you mentioned Eddie and John, and you guys are big in the sports community around here. What's it like working with those guys in the ring versus working with them in the sports community?
I mean, we're pretty tight knit. There's another one of us that's named Earl Fields, who's also from around here. I mean, you've got 4, I guess you'd say, homegrown local boys that grew up liking wrestling, and I know when I started, John and Eddie were the ones that taught me, that trained me. They were already training Earl, and we spent hours and hours on the road together. I mean, we're not necessarily friends, or we're more than friends. We're brothers. I don't pull any punches with them. I say what I want. We give each other down the road. You better have tough skin. You ride in the car with us, because it is on 24/7. We are going to cut you down, and I mean that's just what we do. I mean, we love each other. My first 5 years in the business, we would leave on Friday after they got off work. I was just 18. We would leave on Friday, and we would drive west. We would go to either London, Somerset, Monticello, somewhere, or Corbin, somewhere in that area, Friday night. Get done there, drive on into Bowling Green, spend the night, get up, hang around town there, drive to Columbia, Tennessee, which is about 30 minutes past Nashville, wrestle, get done, drive back to Bowling Green, spend the night, get up, drive to Big Clifty, Kentucky, which is just outside of Elizabethtown, do a show for a church community in a metal building they had right next to the church. We'd do that about 1 o'clock, get done about 4 o'clock, drive back to Bowling Green, hang out, wrestle in Bowling Green that night, get home Monday morning about 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. That was my weekend for 4 or 5 years, every weekend.
You get rich doing that too, right?
Tons of money.
Tons of money.
Tons of money.
Tons of money in the wrestling business. What kind of wrestlers have you worked with over the years that some of our viewers may know the name of?
Well, in this area, I sure hope they know the name of Ricky Morton.
Oh yeah.
I've wrestled with Ricky Morton several times, and beautiful Bobby Eaton. I've actually wrestled as a tag team partner of Bobby. I've also wrestled against Bobby, so those guys were great. Veterans like that you learn a lot from them, and just by sitting in the locker room. Worked Demolition Axe. He was great too. Like I said, anytime you're in a locker room with people that have been around or have been to the mountaintop, as they say, and you just sit in there and shut up. Whatever they say, I mean, you're listening. I don't care if it's talking about something completely absurd, and you're gonna listen. I mean, they've earned that much respect. So, and I've been in locker rooms with other famous people. I've not wrestled, but it's the same thing. We're just gonna sit back and shut up. Whatever they've got to say, if they've got an opinion on, if they're just sitting there being quiet, and all of a sudden they got an opinion on something, whatever we're doing, we put it down. We listen.
No doubt. So you said you guys grew up, you loved wrestling. Do you have, put you on the spot with this one, do you have a favorite wrestler growing up?
Whew. Favorite wrestler growing up? Well,
I can give you my two, and you can go on from that. And they were
let's go with your two.
two bitter rivals for a long time.
Bitter rivals.
And that was Ric Flair and Dusty Rhodes.
Ric Flair and Dusty Rhodes.
Those two guys, I mean, everything they did, and a lot of times they were going head to head with each other back in the day. But everything they did, I just loved it.
Ric Flair, to me, is the greatest wrestler of all time. I think he is for most people. Hulk Hogan, to me, is the biggest draw of all time. He would be the Babe Ruth of wrestling. He transcended what it means to be a wrestler, because he was famous as a wrestler, and then he was famous in all mediums. You know, his popularity grew, and they didn't have to watch him wrestle, even though his acting skills weren't that good. Your best in-ring performer of all time is hands down Shawn Michaels.
Shawn Michaels?
Hands down. He may not have been the most technically sound, which Bret Hart probably is, but I mean, WrestleMania is the biggest wrestling event, period. Any time of the year, biggest wrestling event, and he's called Mr. WrestleMania for a reason. So, but to answer your question, I watched wrestling growing up in two phases. I watched it pre-middle school, then and I really got back into watching it when I was about a sophomore in high school. I watched Hogan. Hogan was probably my favorite from when time I was about 6 or 7 till I quit watching it for a while. Then I got back watching it in, I guess, what's called the Attitude Era. And my favorite person there would have probably been The Rock.
The Rock?
And The Rock, you can't touch him on the microphone.
See, I find when people talk about the Attitude Era, you got basically two schools of thought. You got the people that like The Rock, and then you got the people like me that like Stone Cold Steve.
Everybody likes
which
Stone.
you can't go wrong with
You
either
can't
one
go
of them.
wrong.
You can't go wrong with either one of them. And I think their feuds and their matches may be one of the greatest. I mean, it is one of the greatest. I don't know if
One of
I'd
the
call it
greatest
the
feuds, yes.
I think the greatest would be Ric Flair and Dusty Rhodes. That's that. But you've got there's
Flair
a lot.
and Steamboat's a pretty good feud.
Oh, there's
Flair and
there's some good
Steamboat.
one. There's some
And
good
Flair
one.
and Sting.
Oh, then
Basically Flair.
the Freebirds back in the day. They had some-
Freebirds.
and the Von Erichs.
First time I seen the Freebirds was not on wrestling TV or at a live event. You know where the first time I seen them was?
At Circle T. No, where at?
The Highlander movie.
Oh, really?
That was actually my first ever experience of wrestling, was watching that movie. Then I come across, I think maybe WWF Superstars after that, and that's when I was younger. That's where I seen Hogan. And how could you not like Hogan? They shoved him down your throat.
Oh yeah, and even when he was a bad guy, he was the biggest thing around.
It's hard not to say Hogan was the biggest draw, because he was the biggest draw in two of the biggest companies at different times in his career as two different characters. He was when he was their top face of the company with Vince, biggest draw. He put WCW over Vince when he was the biggest bad guy. So I mean,
And then he went good guy again, and he was still still on top. You told me before that you're doing a little basketball coaching right now. And when I say little, I mean literally little.
yeah, they're probably I can't do it with the table here, but they're way down there.
Way down
Kindergarten and second graders.
And I understand you're helping them out with some wrestling.
Yeah, I coach at Chavvy's Elementary, and we are sponsoring a wrestling show there next Thursday night, October 15th. So that goes toward stuff that we need to buy, and that's what the funds go for. Stuff for my little kids, stuff we practice with, new uniforms, stuff like that.
That's cool. Hey, it's been awesome talking with you. Is there anyone else you need to give a shout out to or anything?
Oh
before
yeah,
we
we
go?
need to quick shout out to the sponsors of the show tomorrow. The East Main Street Pharmacy down there at the Hazard Clinic, first floor, DeShay Wooten and those gals, great people. Bruce Fields, Shout out to Bruce. If you haven't got your tickets yet to the show, you can go to Cezanne's Mexican Restaurant. They have limited free tickets. Now, they may be gone by the time people see this podcast, but they were there.
Oh, because this is a hot number right here.
I mean,
Number one host in Eastern Kentucky of a wrestling podcast. Promise.
But if you go in there and you mention the wrestling show, it's 10% off your meal. Take your ticket stub. If you go to the show after that, 10% off your meal. They're doing fried ice creams with any meal. And you always remember on Sunday, children under 12 eat for free. Then like to thank East Kentucky Fitness. Just moved in up there on Morton Boulevard next to Complete Care Pharmacy. Owner Dale Williams and the operator is Laura Jo Pelfrey. And they've got a personal trainer there if anybody needs to go up there and get whipped into shape, Tyler Noble. So go up there and check him out. I'd like to thank Monkey Punch Games and Repairs. They're doing, they got free diagnostics on all computers this month, $35 virus cleanups. You buy 2 used games, you get 1 for free. Buy 2 DVDs, you get 2 for free. They're also on the Saturday after Thanksgiving, they're having a Magic the Gathering game in honor of the kid that died in Colorado, Joseph Combs. He was a big Magic the Gathering player. And his family's established a scholarship in their name. So all proceeds go toward that scholarship. It's $25. Check their Facebook to whether it's going to be a modern or standard game. And door prizes will be given away there. So, and that's the Saturday after Thanksgiving. Finally, last shout out to Estill and Dougie at the Big Blue Smokehouse. Estill, that's good stuff up there. This month is seafood month. They've got Cajun catfish, deep fried catfish, crab legs. Not the kind that you have to use those utensils for. I never have any luck with the utensils. So end up just biting on it. But they got the pop and go crab legs. You just pop them, and the meat comes right out, and you eat them. Got that, and their ever famous shrimp roll. That's what I love to go up there and eat. And then if you don't not in the mood for seafood, go get their baby back ribs, their pulled pork, their hand cut steaks, all that stuff up there is good. And if you go in there, you mention wrestling, you take your ticket from the show, 10% off. Even if you're not a wrestling fan, go in there and say, hey, seen Kyle Maggard on the podcast with Nathan. 10% off.
Well, that sounds good to me, buddy. We thank you for coming in.
Buddy, I'm happy to be here anytime.